Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Republicans propose to cut the corporate tax rate almost in half. They propose to reward those who have dodged their taxes and hidden them in offshore island havens, as reflected in the Paradise Papers. They propose a tax break for those at the top of the income scale, where about 80% of the benefits go to the top 1%. And as a result of that, as Mr. Roscom said, quote, we're going to borrow $1.5 trillion over 10. Think a little bit about what that means. $1 trillion and plus $500 billion. The loan, the IOU that these Republicans are telling America we should take out. You might remember that only a few months ago, they were telling us the only kind of tax cut they would support is one that is fully paid for. They wanted it all paid for. But now we've moved $1 trillion and $500 billion down the road. Where are we going to find people who want to accept our IOU? Well, the Saudis and the Gulf states, they've been willing to take our IOUs. The Chinese have accepted our IOUs. A substantial amount of the $1.5 trillion that they propose to borrow is going to be held by foreign interests that compromise our security by becoming so reliant on them. And let's look a little at the $1.5 trillion. It is a very optimistic figure. It is their figure. It is the best case scenario that we will have. It does not, for example, consider the interest cost, the carrying charges that go along with the immense debt that they propose to place on the middle class of America. The actual cost, assuming that interest rates don't really spike even higher than most economists estimate, are over $2 trillion. In fact, about $2.3 trillion is the real cost of this. All of their approach to this is based on, trust us. Don't worry about the $2.3 trillion because we're going to have such magical growth that we'll get rid of the $2.3 trillion and everybody will have a little more money in their pocket and a little bigger smile on their face. Well, if you believe that, there's not only a bridge you can buy, there is a lot of other phony stuff out there. And they cannot find, other than your really extreme right-wing ideological, committed to no tax kind of approach, any credible economist to back up their fairy dust argument that they're making about this. Credible economists say there are only a couple problems with their argument. One of them is arithmetic, and the other one is history. And when you look at credible economists about what kind of growth we will get out of their sorry plan, one of them, Moody's Analytics, Mark Zandi says 10 years from now, the economy will be no bigger than it would have been had we not had this tax cut. Greg Dacko, the chief economist for Oxford Economics, estimates that within about 2 years, the higher interest rates will overwhelm any remaining stimulus from the tax reform, resulting in a net drag on economic growth of about 0.5 percentage point. In other words, it's going to get worse after a couple years. Their optimistic projections are unwarranted. And Mark Zandi says again, at about the same time, the economy will actually lose jobs under their sorry job-killing proposal. And of course, the first people we can turn to about how accurate their predictions are the folks from Goldman Sachs, from which two of the people that wrote this plan in the administration come from. And they say, oh, it's just going to be wonderful. We'll get 0.1% perhaps in growth out of this. What we are incurring is immense debt at immense cost to the American people just to benefit a handful of people at the top and some multinational corporations that don't believe in paying their taxes. And what Mr. Blumenauer proposes to do is just provide a little ounce of protection to the American people His amendment is a good one. It ought to be adopted to protect us from the frivolity and the misguided approach of our Republican colleagues.